All right. Dead leg. Tennessee, number 3 seed. Duke, number 2 seed. Can you make sense of that?
No, I can't. As if you're watching live here, I'm coming to you from our CBS Sports HQ studios, podcast studio here. Shouts to Ryan Wilson. He's done many a Pick Six episode here after a Sunday Night Football deal. And when I was on HQ earlier in real time, I saw Villanova was a 2. Didn't think Nova was going to wind up being a 2. But the internet is not out in Philadelphia. They got it. The Nova fans found me. So I'm going to straight up apologize and atone for my comment there, because Duke is more in dispute for the 2 line than Villanova. There's no doubt about that. But I want to say, and I could be misremembering this as well, because I went on the air at 5:30 and was on basically, except for the you know what, I was on until 10:50 at night. So I want to say Duke wasn't in the field yet when I made that tweet, but then again, maybe it was. Duke's the one in dispute. There is no, you got the data. I'm going to just lay this out for you, because everyone knows this is the case. And I did, by the way, I interviewed, we had a whole interview scheduled for HQ. I was going to, first time in my career, get to interview the selection chair on the air. I was ready. Well, that went out the window, but we did squeeze in a 7-minute interview that is on the Eye on College Basketball YouTube channel that you can go watch. And I did directly ask Tom Burnett about the Tennessee situation. He answered it decently. I wasn't completely satisfied with the answer. I guess there is no really, giving anyone an answer that's satisfactory, but there's no defense for this. You could actually make a better case for Tennessee to be the number 1-2 seed than you could for them to be the number 1-3 seed. And in the overall seed order, and then take it away after this, GP, the overall seed order got released, and this is how it goes. It goes Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, Baylor, then Auburn, UK, Nova, Duke. Then it's Wisconsin before you get to the Vols at 11. Purdue and Texas Tech round out the top 12. You can't make a case for it. And I don't understand how the committee got to this point, other than the obvious. When you look at A&M not getting in the field, Tennessee winning the SEC tournament, this tournament even more than the Big Ten anyone. Like the SEC championship, it never means anything. The SEC, if it wants to better its case going forward, I'm serious, move your final to Saturday. Don't hold it on Sundays anymore. Give people the data so they can really understand just how badly the committee goofed up on this by putting Tennessee on a 3 line.
Well, on Bracket Breakdown on CBS Sports Network, we had selection committee member Dr. Chris Reynolds, the athletic director at Bradley, who's going to be the committee chair next season. And I asked him, Tennessee is 16-7 in the first 2 quadrants, 0 losses outside of quadrant 1, undefeated at home. That's clearly, in my mind, a top 8 resume in the country. But Tennessee only got a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. I said, Dr. Reynolds, with all due respect, that seems to reinforce the perception that things that happen on Sunday afternoon don't matter to the bracket. How would you respond to that? And he talked for, a little while, and he didn't really answer the question, which I didn't expect him to, because that's a tough question to ask. Typically if people are asking you questions that are rooted in, hey, I think you got this wrong, the only reason we're asking it, or at least the only reason I'm asking it, is because it's clear to me you got it wrong, and I want to hear you try to defend it. And more often than not, you can't. Again, Dr. Reynolds, really smart guy, but there's no great way to defend it. Let me just run you through it real quick. Because earlier on Sunday, our friend Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, tweeted that, something along the lines of, hey, I think I'm out here a little bit by myself, but if Tennessee beats Texas A&M and wins this SEC tournament, I don't see how Tennessee's not going to be a 2 seed. And I retweeted it and pointed out that on Sunday morning, I had Tennessee ranked 6th in the top 25-1, which doubles as, the second number 2 seed. And spoiler alert, when I update the top 25-1 for the final time, woo! Looking forward to that.
Okay.
Woo! Imagine doing something every day since early November. Every day. And now after I do it one more time, I never have to do it again. I feel like I'm getting at it. This must be what it feels like to get out of prison. When you got one more day of prison.
Okay.
I feel like this must be what it feels like to get out of prison. Boy, when I hit send on the top 25 and one more time, oh
Yeah. Andy
I
Dufresne. Yeah, I got you.
this must be what it's like to walk out of federal prison. So, spoiler alert, I will have Tennessee 5th in the final top 25 and 1. And I could make an argument that they are way closer to being the 4th number 1 than they are being a number 3 seed. 11-7 in quadrant 1, 5-0 in quadrant 2, 16-7 in the first 2 quadrants. 0 losses outside of quadrant 1, undefeated at home. Now, I don't expect you to remember all that, so I'll run back through it after I tell you what Duke is. Duke, 6-2 in quadrant 1, 6-3 in quadrant 2. So 12-5 in the first 2 quadrants, and they've got a quadrant 3 loss. So that means a total of 4 losses outside of the first quadrant. Tennessee has 0. So Tennessee has 5 more quadrant 1 wins than Duke. They have 0 losses outside of the first quadrant. Duke has 4. Check this out. Duke, and I give credit to Jerry Palm, he pointed this out. I'm just stealing it from him. Duke has more losses outside of the first quadrant than the other 3 2 seeds combined.
No.
Plus Tennessee. You ready
for this?
Duke has 4 losses outside of quadrant 1. Auburn has 0. Kentucky has 0. 2 seed Villanova has 1. And 3 seed Tennessee has 0.
There's only one takeaway from that then. Had Duke beaten Virginia Tech, they'd be the number 1 overall seed in this tournament.
It's outrageous. There is no way to defend that. And I am not somebody who's like, oh, they're always looking out for Duke and they're always trying to take care of Duke and blah, blah, blah. I don't subscribe to that stuff. But there is no way to defend Duke over Tennessee. 0 chance. Tennessee has 5 more quadrant 1 wins and Duke has 4 more losses outside of the first quadrant. What are we doing?
I mean, I can't tell you, man. This is brutal. And here's what I thought about in between segments and stuff down in the studio. I'm not going to make we should be critiquing the committee here. This is not going to be 60 minutes of us bashing the committee. Actually, I think in recent years, if memory serves, last year, obviously no 20 tournament, maybe 19. We've started this podcast a couple times saying, you know what? Yeah, a little quibble here, a little quibble there, but the committee's done its job. This feels like there are a couple decisions here that put them ripe for ribbing more than we've seen in a while. And my biggest issue is that, Tennessee should not be on the 3 line. There's no justification for it. And everyone knows it. Everyone knows it, right? But Tennessee gets benefited, I guess, by playing close in Indianapolis and then going to San Antonio. Whereas if it was a 2, if it was the 2 where Duke is the 2, and I haven't even figured out if the bracketing would have allowed for that. But if it was the 2 where Duke is the 2, then it goes to Greenville, which would have been fine. Then it goes to San Francisco. So I don't know if you'd rather be the 3 than the 2 in that instance. I prefer to put teams on the seed lines where they belong. Tennessee was a big misfire, and we have talked about this issue on the podcast near annually for as long as we've done it. All I ask is that it feels like the committee, it convenes on a Wednesday and it grinds and hashes out and seed scrubs and ballots are in and all this Wednesday into Thursday into Friday into Saturday. We get updates frequently. Dave Warlock does a phenomenal job on Twitter, kind of giving updates about here's how many teams are in the field. He even said at one point there was a 5-way tie when the anonymous voting went in as they were trying to put teams in the at-large pool. But it just feels like they get their work done sometime around 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday. Sometimes it goes later than that. And they basically have an assortment of all right, here's the seed, barring a Richmond situation that happened on Sunday. This is our order. We're not going to allow for one more game, one more data point to affect how we're going to seed these teams when I think it actually does matter. If you win your conference tournament championship, depending on the conference, depending on the situation, it should matter. And so many of these Sunday results just simply don't. Now, there's never going to be a situation where the committee and, CBS and the NCAA are going to say, you know what, we just won't play any games on Selection Sunday. We're just going to wait and build up to a 6 o'clock show. It's a ramp up. I get all that. I just want the committee to better account for this. The bracketing process, the seating process, I still feel like sometimes it comes off a bit messy, a bit rushed. But I will also say this. Burnett alluded to this when I talked to him briefly. Keep in mind that there could have easily been a situation. The committee has to take it on the whole, but there could have been a situation where the way that the votes came out, there could have been 5 people that put Tennessee clearly on a 2 and 7 who put it on a 3, or however the vote breakdown broke. And you've got people on this committee who are like, there's no shot. I've got Tennessee on the 2 line, but the majority wound up winning, or the plurality, I should say, wound up winning out, putting Tennessee on the 3. And so we have it. It's not the biggest crime in the world, obviously. It's just so glaring. And I foolishly tweeted earlier in the day, I tweeted that I had the faith that if Tennessee won the SEC tournament, its past behavior for the committee was not going to be repeated. John Calipari was on this 12 years ago. He's been right the whole time. Tennessee should be a 2 instead of a 3, but so it goes. We'll see how they respond. There's a lot of teams that are walking into this bracket playing pretty well, and Tennessee's on that list of like top 3 or 4 in terms of like really strutting into this thing. And we'll see if I don't know how much motivation that those players will have for being a 3 instead of a 2. Maybe it's more of a media thing and a fan thing, but it's it just damages your credibility. That's all. Not the worst thing, but it's certainly something we had to address near the top here.